In this video, we're going to cover 3 different rigs that are great for dry dropper fishing or caddis fishing in particular. From small water to big water, we've got you covered. Stay with us. So in front of us, we've got all of our elements that we need to build a great dry dropper rig. It all starts with the leader. In front of me, we've got 2 different leaders. I've got a hopper leader and I've got our power taper trout leader in 2 different lengths, right? 9 foot and 7.5. First of all, a leader isn't just a leader. A leader is essentially an extension of your fly line that either dissipates the energy or it takes the energy and it transfers it so you get a really great, delicate presentation. In this instance, we wanted to dissipate it and turn it over quickly so we get an accurate presentation at short distance. What defines these kind of leaders, which are great for dry dropper fishing, is a heavier extended butt section with a really short, aggressive transition from thick to thin to our end tippet, right? And so the hopper leader is my first choice if I'm gonna be fishing bigger flies like a chubby or a grasshopper pattern with a dropper. And my power taper is probably gonna be my choice when it comes to fishing general dry dropper fishing throughout the summer. The question of 7.5 versus 9 foot really comes down to your water type. 7.5 foot is perfect for creeks like we have here on the Front Range or across the country. And 9 foot, if I'm wading the big waters or I'm fishing dry dropper out of the boat, will be my choice. And you're gonna choose your X rating based on your fly size here, like we've got recommended. So I'm gonna start here with the 7.5 footer because we're here on one of my favorite little Front Range creeks. And I'm gonna take and undo my leader here and just kind of work the heavy end out. And once you get it worked out, you'll just be able to pull it off nice and easy and you'll walk away with no tangles. The other thing you're going to want to do when it comes to your leader, first thing out of the package, is just to take it and pull it tight. And what that does is it removes the memory from your leader. So you've got a nice straight leader, which means you're going to have a nice accurate presentation with whatever you're choosing. All of our leaders come with a loop. You can loop to loop this on the end of your fly line. If you don't have a loop, you can nail knot it. Or if you do have a loop, you can still trim this off and do a clinch knot. So I've already got my leader already on here, and I've chosen to nail knot it on. I really like nail knotting it on simply because on that 9 footer, when I'm fishing the bigger waters, this knot ends up in and out of my guides, and this just moves through a lot smoother for me. So at the end of my fly line now, I'm going to continue my nylon with 4X, so I'm stepping it down 1 to kind of continue that transition, and I'm going to grab about 12 to 14 inches of this to tie on. And you could choose to do a blood knot here or a surgeon's. Why I really like the nylon to continue this on, nylon has innate properties that allow it to float better than fluorocarbon does. So those, your fly line won't get sucked underneath the water on some of those conflicting currents, causing your fly to get micro drag or get pulled under sooner than it should. A little spit on there to lubricate as I pull tight. And give it a securing tug here. Anytime you're tying knots, I always like to have a little extra knot. I tend not to want to do it too tight. Because it just means I can tie a faster knot. So now we're here at the end, and here's where we're going to do a couple different alternative rigging options for you as you're going out this summer fishing dry dropper. So I'm going to select a nice highly visible dry fly for this kind of creeking rig. A lot of times in our creeks we have a lot of conflicting currents, and it means it can be a little bit difficult to see your fly in all those white bubbles. So something with a little bit of a hot spot, this is Devin Olson's front end loader Caddis, allows you to just see this in a variety of water types here. So now that I've got this tied on, I can obviously fish a single dry fly, but we're going to talk about other ways to fish dry dropper. So with all my dropper material, I like to go fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon sinks better and has a ton of abrasion resistance, making it a perfect choice for a dropper. And I'm always going to step down in diameter, right? So I had 4X and now I'm going to 5X The reason being, if my back fly gets hung up on something, which inevitably it does, I want it to break at this knot I'm tying right now, and not, pun intended, at the knot right above on this side here. I want this 4X to hold and this 5X to fail. So this is an inline off the bend of the hook, and I would choose to tie my nymph onto here. The length of your dropper tag is going to be determined by, we'll do Dorsey's Mercury Caddis here. It's this awesome little dry dropper setup. The length of my dropper will be determined by two things. A, the depth of the water I'm going to be fishing, and B, if the fish are really suspended and higher up in the water column, or if they're deeper down, right? So, so you can kind of choose your length, but this is an inline setup we've got here off the bend of the hook. If I'm fishing heavier flies, right, heavier tungsten beads, knowing I need to get down deeper, this is the way I will always choose to rig this. And the reason being, it'll tip this fly back, and that big, strong elk wing back here will hold that up, and I'll kind of get it a little emergent look to it as it holds it there, and I get great strike detection. It falls straight back. This is my preferred method for fishing heavier flies. If I'm going to fish lighter flies, right, and I want a really nice, delicate presentation, maybe it's some flatter water, I'm going to go through the eye of the hook once again to create this rig. And this is a great way to rig up, because what this does, again, in some of the slower water presentations, it allows this fly to have a little bit more independent movement to that. But you can see here, if I'm fishing this way and I've got a really heavy fly, the nose of this fly is going to want to sink into the water. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't see a lot of headstand dry flies out on the water. I typically see them with their abdomens up, or sorry, their thoraxes up there, versus sitting like tail up here. So if you're fishing heavier flies, I would go the other way. If you're fishing more delicate presentations, this is a fabulous way to rig. So these are both inline presentations for dry dropper fishing. We're going to chop this off, and we're going to take a look at one other way to do this. So move this to the side for a moment. And I'm going to grab now my 5X again, and I'm going to pull off a longer piece this time. This is probably going to be about 24 inches or so. I'm going to come here, and I'm going to tie this on to my piece of 4X again. So I'm always kind of tapering down, and I'm going to tie a longer tag end to my same surgeon's knot. 1, 2, 3. Sorry if I was out of frame there, guys. Lubricate, pull tight, trim off that upstream edge here. And now I've got a tag, you can see here, that I'm going to attach my dry fly onto. So let's pick out a nice dry fly. This is Antonio's Superman Caddis. And I'm going to twist this guy on again real quickly. And on this end, I am going to anchor this whole thing with a little bit heavier nymph, right? So I'm going to choose, this is Mercer's JIGGY Caddis. So I'm still fishing a 2-fly rig. This is no longer an inline rig, as these flies really do move independently. I'm going to put this guy right here in the wood just to anchor it down with a quick second. The reason I like this, right, so I'm tight to my fly here. This guy's independent. The cool thing about this is my rod tip here, is in the evening, those caddis are very animated, whether they're skating, whether they're dabbling on the water like this, dropping their eggs. The beauty of this rig, with a heavy nymph down here, and I start dancing my rod tip, I can quickly simulate that active caddis on the water. And I'll tell you what, I can dead drift, and as soon as I start animating my flies, you will get a response from a trout that is unbelievably aggressive and totally fun. A lot of times when we see fish that are rising out of the water, leaping out of the water to eat flies, you will get that fish eating this fly 2 inches above the water, which is a blast. So this is an alternative way to rig up a dry dropper. When you see a lot of active caddis flies on the water, definitely give this one a try. Anytime you're going to go out and treat your flies, my first step is either the liquid. It's probably my favorite. This is the Shimasaki. If you don't have the liquid, Dry Magic is a wonderful alternative to that. After my fly gets wet and I fish through a lot of water or I've caught a lot of fish, it will need to be revived by some dry shake. So open this up, insert the fly, and I usually like to brush it in a little bit under the wing to make sure I get great flotation and just redress my fly a little bit. But my absolute favorite here is the spray, because when I have the spray, what it literally does is it pushes itself into all of the fibers. It dries super quickly, and I can get right back to fishing very, very quickly. So I hope that all this stuff brings you guys a little bit more success out on the water, catch a few more fish, and have a little bit more fun. Thanks for tuning in.